It's an honor to be here with all of you today in the Asia Society and to share a very special screening of an incredibly powerful film. You know, at MTV, we're big believers of storytelling and its power to humanize, to illuminate, to really forge new corrections, and when done well, to inspire action. And I think the film you're going to see tonight, Documented, does all of those things. As some of you guys probably already know, Jose Antonio Vargas is a great storyteller, and he's been a great storyteller for a long time, whether it was the Virginia Tech shootings where he won the Pulitzer Prize, to the race for the White House. He has this ability to capture the essence of the story and make it instantaneously relatable to a much broader and bigger audience. But I don't think anyone would have expected that his biggest story of his career would be his own. And Documented is his story. It's about big themes, about a parent wanting a better life for her son, coming to terms with who you are, and most importantly, it's about an American experience. And really the masterstroke is that it's an immigration documentary wrapped in a love story. You know, at MTV, we've covered the immigration debate for a while, and what's really unbelievable is the biases and the preconceived notions of what it means to be an immigrant. And we just yesterday launched a major campaign called Look Different. And the point of it is to address implicit bias, because our audience is really good about obvious versions like the Clipper guy and what he just did, but implicit bias, their sense of a colorblind society, sometimes makes them afraid to talk about race. They don't have the tools or the forum. And so the entire point of the Look Different campaign is to really ask them to question their assumptions when you're talking about race or gender or privilege or immigration. And we're incredibly proud to count Jose's organization, Define American, as a key partner of our campaign and want to support it as part of the broader campaign that helps humanize this very important debate. So no matter how you feel about the issue of immigration, I guarantee you that in 90 minutes, you're going to feel differently, which is the hallmark of a great story. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to present Documented. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you understand now why I sat through that another time. Sat through it is not really the right phrase. It's a bizarre experience. It's probably a little odd for those of you who are here to just have the lights come up and see this gentleman next to me. It's very bizarre to watch this film over the weekend at home and then be privileged to be sitting on a stage with you. So I have a million questions, but I had the privilege of a conversation with you earlier today, so I really want to just ask a couple of them, and then we have limited time, so leave the rest to the audience. You said early in the film, Jose, that you're in this for impact. And
yes.
I know that personally, in terms of your own circumstance, there isn't really impact to speak of. I asked you whether there was an update to the story since the film was put together. But do you feel with your testimony on Capitol Hill, the interactions that you've had with a lot of well-known Americans, how would you assess the impact that you think you have had thus far, if you can?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here. You could be like, having dinner outside, but you're here with us. Thank you for that. Impact. Why did I make this film? So tomorrow, as you guys know, by the way, the hashtag is @documentedfilm.
Oh, very good.
Hashtag @documentedfilm, right? Right, Lara. Handle, I'm sorry, the handle. The handle, Lord. @documentedfilm. The website is documentedthefilm.com. We're going to be in theaters tomorrow. So please, in the East Village on 2nd Avenue, please check it out. tomorrow I will be at Union Square and Times Square handing out like little postcards saying, "Hi, I'm undocumented, watch a film." So when I say I wanted impact, I wanted to, I feel like we're living in this age of disruption, and I think the job of this film is to disrupt what people think of the issue. I know that I've won, not because of whatever critics are going to say or whatever. I know that I've won and that we have won. When, as I did 2 nights ago, I was at Miami University where Paul Ryan went to school, where Speaker John Boehner's district is, and we showed this film to about 300 kids. Miami University is 90% white, mostly conservative. And if the reaction of the students in that school after the screening was the verdict, then I know that I had done my job. Because they just felt very disarmed and disrupted.
There's actually a moment at the beginning of the film with, I guess that's the classroom at your old school in Mountain View, where you disrupt them a little bit, right? Because you ask them for what their views
of the whole issue is.
Do you think that because the view, rightly or wrongly, for many Americans, young and old, sophisticated, not so sophisticated, is that, well, they think undocumented, they think Latino, they think migrant labor maybe in California. Does the fact that your story is so different and so counter to that paradigm, does that make you a better advocate?
I think the problem there is that it sets up this idea of like the good immigrant versus the bad immigrant,
right,
or the worthy immigrant and not the worthy immigrant. And this is why in the film it was really important to have that scene in Alabama with the farmer and Paco, right?
Right.
To kind of unpack that, and just make sure that we address that. But yeah, I think for people, there's such a stereotype about this issue. When I say that 1.2 million of the 11 million are Asian, 1 out of 5 Koreans are undocumented in this country. 1 out of 5. 1 out of 6 Filipinos in this country is undocumented, right? These are pretty big numbers, and people don't know that, right? And so I think, and this is where I have to say, this is where the media has really largely failed us. This is why at Define American, please check defineamerican.com. We've been kind of at the forefront of trying to change language on this issue. So I have done about 200 events, I counted this last week, about 200 events in 42 states in almost 3 years. And probably the most tragic thing for me, as somebody who grew up in California and have a lot of Mexican-American friends, how many people use illegal and Mexican interchangeably?
Right.
I don't think we've even really realized just the damage of that. And then you meet people in the South or in the Midwest who happen to be Mexican, Mexican-American, who feel like under siege or not welcome in their own country, And so this is why I think for us, culture and film is so important, because it creates a different kind of space that's not about, hey, blame this person or blame the Republicans or blame. We've done way too much of that as it is already.
So would you say that, back to the original question about the impact that you've had, I hadn't realized actually that you've had that many events. Ask
some of the people that went with me.
But that suggests that there's been a certain impact already, right? Especially if you go to audiences around the country and if you're disrupting the conversation or the narrative as you...
The era of preaching to the choir is over. It must be over, right? I think sometimes I feel like we have this pat each other in the back, kind of, those people over there, they're racist, they're bigoted, they're whatever. That's too much of a cop-out, right. I think we have to understand, sometimes I think in this country we over-communicate without really connecting. And how do we do that? That's why the scene in Alabama and in Iowa are so important, right? To show people, when that woman, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, they wanted to help me. They just didn't know how, right? She was like, we want the highly intelligent people here. I remember when I first saw that, I was like, okay, I can't wait to show that in Des Moines or Iowa City. And okay, is that really what we want? And what does that even mean, right? Yeah.
Now, the fellow in Alabama, actually, that was a little counterintuitive. I remember when I first watched it, I thought we were getting to a stereotype where this guy was going to be presented as sort of maybe the other side, and he doesn't. I mean, how did you find him, and how does he work his way into the film?
And Lupo, who's sitting over there, who was still a student at NYU. We met, and I'm like, hey, you're going to come with me to Alabama. She was the one that shot that footage. We were just having dinner, interviewing the manager, and he just goes off. And I remember thinking, oh man, like, I hope Ann doesn't drop this camera. And I'm like, second, oh my God, I hope he doesn't start hitting anybody. Like, if he hits, like, what do I do in return? Like, I haven't taken karate since like 7th grade, you know? And like, but even that conversation, right?
Yeah.
It turned. And then to me, what was interesting, I was really worried about him. He was one of the people in the film that I was really worried about, because to your point, I don't want him to be seen as a caricature. The last thing I wanted was to give you like a redneck guy. You know, that's why his point at the end, right? I'm a contractor, I'm a blue collar guy. If I want to charge $20.
That guy. I was talking about the farmer in Alabama.
Oh, the farmer. Well, he really surprised me, as you said. And Clarissa de los Reyes, who's our director of photography, she and I actually came back because we wanted better footage. So we came back, and Clarissa was preparing, you know, because we have to like prepare for the shoot, right? Like, you know, mics and all that. And so Lawrence, the farmer, he says to me, I Googled you, Jose. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he says, I didn't know you were homosexual. And I'm thinking, where's Clarissa? Where is this gonna go? And then.
Well, you, as you pointed out, you've come out twice, right?
And I didn't know where it was gonna go. And then it was, you know, and then he says, just goes to tell you, you really got, you know, you got to get to know somebody. You're not, you know, you're a cool guy. But again, like, I was like thinking, oh man, he's like gonna be good with that one, but not with the other one. I was thinking, and I was like, once he says that, what do I do? You know, like, do I like? I don't know. And but we make these assumptions without even knowing it, right? But this is why, again, conversation is so important. How many times, you know, our goal, like, you know, especially when Jeb Bush made that comment about act of love.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, that was a cultural statement, not a political one, right? And how do we create the kind of space where we can have those kinds of conversations, right? And it's not about, like, when we were in Miami University, this young woman, she said she'd grown up in a Republican household. She said to me, what I got out of the film is that what wouldn't a mother do for her son? I want that to be the conversation. Not about the criminals who crossed the border who were like taking away your lunch money. Right? I want that to be the conversation. So that's our goal.
I want to come back to your relationship with your mother, and your mother as a character in a minute, but before we leave the issue of impact so far, can you share with the audience, you mentioned to me earlier today that you, among another high-profile person who you've screened the film for is Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook.
Yes, we had...
This film is probably a kind of odd commercial for Facebook in weird ways, right? I mean,
but imagine though, Mark was sitting in the front with his wife when my mother says, it's just Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have hurt. I mean, I don't know, I never asked him, but that must have hurt. And another woman that really deserves a lot of prop is Sabrina Schmidt-Gordon, who's here. Yay! Oh, yay, Sabrina! Awesome. So, because Sabrina has had the, we've edited it like 5 times. So Mark, you know, who's a friendly guy. I remember after the screening we were like IMing, and then he says, "Hey, that was great, but I don't understand why your mom can't come here." So that's when we added that section of the graphic explaining like why she can't come and the tourist visa, and you know, she's a process that I'm still trying to make sense of. That was literally an addition that Sabrina and I made like 2 weeks ago. But you know, but just and this is, I have to tell you, the most surreal part of this whole experience for me is I'm literally and publicly owning up to my own life as it's happening. The name of the production company in the beginning was Apo Productions. Apo in Tagalog, my native language, means grandchild. And then as we kept fiddling with the film, how could I not include my mother to honor her? So then I changed it to Apo Anak Productions, and Anak means child. But little things like that, that's like owning up, right? And to me, the message here, as a person of color, as somebody who's gay, as somebody who's a quote-unquote minority, I think it's really important that we tell our own stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important that we control the narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And embrace all the imperfection and all the, the humanity of it. And I'm just really thankful that I had collaborators in this whole film. The woman that's been really helpful for me just in the past couple of months is Janet Yang. She produced the Joy Luck Club. And she had some really interesting insights about, she felt that I was protecting the audience too much. Like, that was when we didn't have the scene of Lou Dobbs. We didn't have the scene of Lou Dobbs, and like all the hate mail that I would get, like wetback, that wasn't in the cut that she saw. She was like, why? And I said, well, because that's not how I am. Like, I'm like, I can handle any criticism, any hate mail, whatever. I just keep going. And then Janet was like, no, you need to show people that. Right? So that was really interesting and really helpful.
So back to your mother, and then please have your questions ready. Again, we don't have that much time, but I really want to open it up to the audience. You really, having seen it twice now, I mean, you really lay bare your relationship with your mother and your own shortcomings in that regard, some of her shortcomings.
Yeah.
But again, from our conversation earlier today, I asked Jose whether, surely there must be some way in which, with all the attention that this has gotten, that his personal case would result in a rendezvous or get-together of some kind, that surely it could come to pass. And do you mind sharing your point about your concern that that doing that might compromise the...
Hold on one second. Matthew Hilsick, where are you going? Oh, I'm sorry. Can everybody wave to Matthew Hilsick? Like... This man...
He's so good at giving credit to everyone.
Because this is the ultimate collaborative form. This man, the moment I said to him I was going to do a film, I never show him footage. He says, okay, go. Not once did he doubt me. So, Matthew Hilsick, thank you for that.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you were like, I just wanted to make sure that I said that.
I thought you're dodging a question about your mother.
I am. That's exactly why I did that. Good job. I was really, what I'm really worried about? I judged my mother when I was younger. I judged her. I made the mistake of judging her because I didn't understand why she did what she did when I was younger. And now what I'm worried about this film is all of a sudden I'm opening her up to the judgment of other people.
Yep. Does she know?
Oh yeah. She's seen it. She's like, so I'm really worried about that because I just hope that she comes across with as much dignity as possible, with as much dignity and humanity as possible. And to your point, so my mother and I, we're going to meet at some point very soon, hopefully. I don't know, but hopefully. But when it does happen, it will be utterly private. No more filming. We're not. That belongs to to the both of us. I think hopefully with this film, and I say this a lot, like you make a film so specific, you hope it becomes universal. And I hope that we have given enough specificity and that it could be a Mexican mom or a Nigerian mom or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So, but thankfully, the biggest gift I have to say of this entire thing for me has been finding this mother that I've been looking for. Mm-hmm. So that's been good.
And just so that people understand, am I right that your point is that if you were to make a kind of public spectacle of getting together again, that you think it might harm the greater or the bigger effort that you're...
Then all of a sudden, why is Jose okay to do that and why not other people?
Right.
I hear horror stories from people on Facebook or people emailing me saying my dad died 2 years ago and I couldn't go home to visit. Right? So I just don't want it to be this. I mean, from the very beginning, I knew when I did this. I'm a pretty thoughtful person. I'm like a walking New Yorker article. Like, I think through things, like...
I don't know what that means.
That just means long-winded... Okay. I'm just kidding. I love the New Yorker. It's just like, long, I love the New Yorker. It's great. I thought this through. And the moment I did it, I knew that if I do it this way, then I must say that I can't be the exception.
Right.
That it can't be like, oh, let's save Jose and like screw everybody else.
But what exactly is right now,
Yeah.
it's been all this time, preventing, even if you'd never been an activist or advocate and never made the film, what exactly right now is preventing your mother from coming to this country?
So, as I said, so right now she's in a 16-year waiting list to legally come, as I said in the footage. Mm-hmm. And then she's been denied a tourist visa twice, mm-hmm. right? So if she were a French woman who wants to go see the Book of Mormon, she buys a ticket, she's here. If you come from India, the Philippines, Guatemala, what they call underdeveloped countries, if you can't prove that you're wealthy and that you have money, and so therefore you can go back to where you come from, or whatever that means, they don't let you go. Mm-hmm. So she's not even eligible for a tourist visa. She's been denied twice.
Okay.
That's why.
All right.
Questions, right? You said? I'm so sorry. One last thing, Tom. So the people
So
that
the
I
last thing,
mentioned,
we have questions from the
can
audience.
they? So Anne Lupo, Sabrina, Clarissa, Lara, Drayson, Maria, Lee, Chris Mercado, Rhett Millsaps. Can everybody please, people just stand up? Those people, please stand up. And Matthew Hilsing, I don't know where he is, but as you all know, film is the ultimate collaborative art, and so I would not be here. Jake Honing, there you go. Sorry, I would not be anywhere if they didn't do this with me. So
a couple of things while hands go up if you have a question. You mentioned Janet Yang, who's on the board of our center in Southern California.
yeah.
The executive director there, Jonathan Karp, was the one who called this to our attention,
Yes.
and so he's started this whole whirlwind of
Trying to make this happen.
Well, I mean, it's going to be screened, as you probably know, in Los Angeles next
At
week.
the Museum of Tolerance.
Yeah, an Asia Society program there, and we're going to, at some point, get it to our center in Manila. And that's a segue.
Have my mom. Yeah.
If I may introduce the Consul General, who is here from the Philippines in the
Oh, I
front
didn't
row.
realize that. Oh, hi. If it weren't for the Philippine embassy, I would have no passport to travel.
Yeah.
That's how I got in the film.
Right.
That's where I got the passport. So thank you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Okay. I'm done with questions, and I'm sure there are more. We have about 10 minutes. Yes, sir, in the fifth row here.
The Supreme Court not long ago, with Chief Justice Roberts and his four conservative brethren, struck the provision in the civil rights law requiring muster from the Justice Department if a voting rights change occurred in the state. And the states that took advantage of that almost immediately imposed impediments to voting in those jurisdictions, and those jurisdictions appear to be the same ones essentially that are strongly in opposition to immigration reform. Do you think that if 10.9 million people who are undocumented were white and 300,000 were of color, instead of the other way around, there would likely be immigration reform?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part? If what?
If the numbers were reversed, that 10.9 million were white and 300,000 were, not to put you on the
Weren't they
spot,
before? There were Irish and Italians and Eastern European Jews and Germans and Norwegians. But the answer to your question is, race certainly plays a factor. I think class plays a big factor. In my experience, I think, because, I mean, to me, especially in this post-Sterling, Donald Sterling, post-racial, colorblind age that we apparently live in, using the word racist for me is probably like, I'm very careful with that word. Because I think it's so loaded, as it should be. For me, what I feel in my travels, it feels as if people just want someone to blame. They feel like they can't send their kids to school. They're not making as much money as they used to. When they go to Home Depot, they hear Spanish, and they're like, what the hell is happening? They go to the school. I was in Siler City, North Carolina last week, or 3 days ago, I forget. The high school there used to be 90% white. It's now 75% Latino in just 10 years, right? So there's a sense of anxiety, and the fact that their America is slipping away from them, right? I think a lot of it is that. I mean, is it race? Yes, but I think I have this idea and fantasy in my head that we could solve this if we just fed each other free food. If we could just bring lumpias, to like all of the South and say, here, I like your apple pie, have a lumpia. I think we could actually solve a lot of these problems. But yeah, this sense of anxiety. And I think for me, what's really important is empathy. I can't expect anybody to have empathy for me if I don't have any empathy for them, right? So trying to find that, I think, is the hard part, without saying that's racist,
While we get another question, full disclosure, my father was Polish and my mother Norwegian, so I'm...
Great.
Hands up, right here, yes. So that scene... Oh, wait for the microphone, Tahiat. Come on, you should know that.
That scene where the mother says, my daughter-in-law was about to get exported or something.
Exported?
Yes, I know. It's priceless.
Was she a shirt? I'm sorry, but go ahead.
It was priceless. But as funny as that is, what are some of the most common misconceptions that people have that lead to that comment, why don't you just go stand in line and get an American passport?
God, it's so easy to blame the press, but what can I say?
You could blame the press.
Yeah. I'd always assumed that there was a big gap, right, between what people like me live through and what people think it is. I would not have assumed that it was like the Atlantic Ocean, right? I would not have assumed that. And the fact that it is what it is, that's why I'm really proud in the film, we actually show you, oh, this is the form, and I can't get through line 2, right? If we go right now to Times Square and ask people, they couldn't. The immigration code is as complicated as a tax code, as I say in the film. Yet how many reporters do you think actually understand it and write about it? So questions like, why don't you make yourself legal? That's my favorite one, because it kind of just, it's so outrageous. It's because I'm a masochist and this is so much more fun to me, Just craving attention, that. Why don't you just make yourself legal? Why haven't they deported you? I don't know, ask them. And again, you're not Mexican. You saw that man, right? I'm so happy that my eyebrows didn't just jump out at him. Because I hear that so many times. And then when people say it to me, it's almost it's called Spanish colonialism, 300 years, I don't want to have to be a walking history book. But I feel like that's what I am sometimes. And I was just telling Tom earlier today, I was in North Carolina recently to show the film, and a gentleman who was a little belligerent said to me, because I said there's 4 million Filipinos in America, and he was like, that's a lot. I'm like, okay, why are there so many of you here? And he didn't say that in a welcoming way. And I was tired, it was late, and so all I can say to him, sir, we're here because you were there. That's why we're here. We're here because you were there. And he was like, what? Read The Economist. No, I'm just I don't... In the film, by the way, the only way I could talk about that was the first 2 lines. So growing up in the Philippines, I always knew I was coming to America. America was inevitable. That was the only way in the film, without shouldering too much already, I could address, what this codependency has been, right? And you can do the same thing in Guatemala, with Nicaragua, with the history of Vietnam, that. And we don't talk about immigration in that way, right? We talk about it as a border issue. As in these illegal criminal issues. And we haven't even gone beyond that. We haven't really even scratched the surface. My last comment about this. Next year is the 50th anniversary of the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act, right? Which is precisely why America right now, Latinos are the largest minority and Asian are the largest racial group, fastest growing racial group. That's why this country is Latino and Asian right now, is because of that act. People don't even know it.
Yep. Couple more questions. There are tons. The woman smack in the middle with, yes, your right hand up right there. Microphone coming your way.
Hi. I had the opportunity to run a labor union in San Diego for 3 years, and one of our main problems was when our workers were picked up by ICE. their children were left at school with no one to pick them up. So we had to go down and work with Division of Youth and Family Services to figure out what to do with all of the children. So it resonated with me that you went back to your high school. And I was wondering how often you go back and talk to young people, because I found that that's where the terror was. They were afraid that their parents would go, and then if their parents went, what would happen to them? So do you have a program that specifically reaches out back to the high school and junior high school level children?
Good question.
I go a lot. I mean, as you can tell from the film, like I owe a lot to Mountain View High School, so I go quite a bit. I was actually just there 2 months ago doing another event. Actually, the first screening of the year we had for this film was at my high school as a scholarship, as a way to raise money for a scholarship fund, which is how I got to college. But unfortunately for us, we've been doing more college outreach. So I've done 110 colleges so far in the past almost 3 years. I was just at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas, apparently the second most conservative city in America. And I went there specifically because the young conservatives of Texas they had a game called Catch an Illegal Immigrant. They thought it was funny. So I went there, Maria and I went there, and it was great because in one room, we invited the young conservatives of Texas, and then we invited the undocumented students from the college. And all of a sudden, they're talking to each other and talking about why that's offensive. And so we're hoping to really define American chapters in some select colleges and provide that kind of space. Coalition building right now, as you know, is like the fact that all these issues really intersect. Like you can't really talk about immigrant rights and not talk about women's rights and not talk about LGBT rights, right? Or labor rights, And so we have to provide a space where we can actually build coalitions.
But your high school looked, at least from that little scene,
Yeah.
like it did not seem to be a very, like a school where there are a lot of immigrant kids at all.
Actually,
right?
well, that was just the day we shot it. I think right now, actually, the school is 30%. But what's interesting in that school is you know how people now use code language about, like my school was really pioneering. My principal that you met was really pioneering because she was one of the first high schools that they allowed open enrollment, meaning any kid who wants to take an AP class or an honors class can take it. I was the student rep when that happened, and we had so many parents come and say, we can't let these students in the classes. Like they're gonna lower the standards. Well, who are these students? Oh, you mean the Black and Latino students. And to me, what's really outrageous is when you have Asian parents saying this, right? That you can't let these, I'm sorry, what? We gotta call that out, Yeah, so.
One more question. Fortunately, you have other events coming, so this won't be the only.
Village
yes,
East,
right
5 showings starting tomorrow.
Hi there, Antonio. So what is your status now? Has the INS and the Homeland Security decided what to do with you, or is it because of your high visibility, you're untouchable right now?
Untouchable. So I'm undocumented, like everybody. I'm waiting for something to happen. There isn't really. I have one of my lawyers actually. JT Malonga, where is he?
How many
JT?
lawyers do you have?
I have 16 sometimes. It depends. JT Malonga is still here. Hopefully, he's one of my lawyers, and because I admitted to the things that I shouldn't have admitted to. I have to tell you, by the way. So the scene in the film where I admit to checking that box, right? Lawyers were like, "What are we doing? Why are we?" But if I don't include that scene, is really important because I admit to what I did, right? But I feel like if I'm asking you to be honest with me, I have to be honest with you, right? So because I admitted to all of this, it just complicates my situation, right? So that's why immigration reform is really important. Like I don't even know, for example, if I could qualify to just marry a man, which I can in the state of New York, if I would qualify for marriage and that. Not that I'm dating anybody or anything, but like, it's totally bad. It's like I can't even handle that. So you saw the film. It's like really, like, So So I'm in a state of limbo. But to your point about fear, I spent my entire 20s scared. All of it scared. And it's so liberating to not be afraid of that kind of fear, to like let go of that fear and be the fullest person I can possibly be. And really, like, none of us, we're not looking for like awards or, you know, like for me, what gets a little uncomfortable is being put in some sort of pedestal. We're like, oh my God, you're so courageous or whatever. Oh, that makes me so uncomfortable because I feel like courageous is when you do something that you don't have to do. For me, this was necessary. Like, there was no other way. So I don't want awards or like, I don't want any of that. All I want, like anybody else, is to be seen as a full human being. All I want as a human being is to be able to be free and go where I want to go. Right? What is more human than that? So that's what we want. This is more than getting pieces of papers and getting a piece of legislation through Congress. This is about the liberation of people. This is what this is about. So, thank you again so much.
Thank you.